Duergar. For dwarves by dwarves. I'm Duergardist Ryan here.
I'm Ted.
Dave.
Nate.
Alright, we lied. We are Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds. But today we're going to be talking about the 5th edition race, the Duergar, the Grey Dwarves, the Deep Dwarves, the Evil Dwarves!
Or the D&D monster known as.
Formerly known as Duergar. They just point to a symbol, a glyph. Big Prince, man.
Yeah, they're probably they're one of my favorite underdark races. Drow are so played out.
They're just.
And dwarves
I'm sick.
Duergar are just dwarves, but cooler.
Dwarves,
In a lot of ways.
Dwarves, but more powerful.
With
Yes.
mental issues.
Yes.
Yeah, they do have.
They got problems. They got some problems.
Well, all right. So here's what I like about the Duergar. It's a monster that can appear in your game at first level and actually go all the way up to 20. Because, thematically, duergars are slavers. So literally, you could actually have them show up on the fringe of your campaign early on.
Because they're gonna whomp a low level party. When they go in large, they're just gonna beat the crap. So you don't want to fight your first level party against a lone Duergar. That could go bad.
They might be able to take out one.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, they
Like a
can take out
scout.
one because one would be considered a moderate challenge, but you put 2 or 3 out there and they're crushing.
It could also be that the start of a campaign where you get abducted by slavers, they're Duergar, and they take you down below Underdark, and your whole campaign's about getting out of the Underdark alive. You could do that kind of thing. So they're really good campaign starters or hooks for different things.
Absolutely, and the fact that they
Wasn't that a movie with Kurt Russell, Escape from the Underdark?
Right.
Or they have Duergar.
Yeah.
Because-
But you could totally take themes from those movies and
Yeah.
reskin them with Duergar, and there you go, campaign sort of inspiration there.
what I like about them, as monsters, is they are essentially really a martial race, just like the surface dwarves, but they have the ability to go invisible.
Their innate magic is awesome.
Yeah, and the ability to enlarge. So it really makes for turning that fightery and monster into something magical and
Hey,
terrifying.
Nate, they're talking about magic. Tell them how it really works.
Wait. I'm sorry. I was reading something about.
No, they're talking about the innate abilities of a Duergar being magical.
How does that really work?
How's it really work?
Yeah, how do you really feel about that?
Well,
I just
What
totally stumped you.
yeah. What they
It's
sound.
goddamn cyanic.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because they
I was
were
like, wait, it's not magic.
they were enthralled by the Illithids and they escaped. Actually, psychologically speaking, how interesting is it that they were a slave race, psionically enslaved, and then they come out of slavery and they're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna enslave some other people. How evil and
I've
fucked up.
learned from the freaking
Yeah,
best.
learn from that. How evil and fucked up are you? That was terrible. That was awful. I'm gonna go turn right around and do that shit to somebody else.
I've learned great things.
Yeah, I know how to, I could see how I could do this
Yeah,
better.
it says psionics all over it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, your
mind is a
standard-
fortress. I mean,
Your
come on.
standard dwarf is kind of taciturn and stern and dour. Well,
These guys hate everything.
well, basically, you take the grumpiest, surface dwelling dwarf in the
worst
world, and
he's the
that's their best.
And then you don't let them sleep for a week straight, right? And then you hop them up on caffeine, and there's a Duergar. Yeah,
It's like, they possess all of the abilities of their surface cousins.
with none of the joys or passions.
They've got the ability to smith as great a stuff as their surface dwelling cousins.
But they make it dull and boring just because.
And they can't enjoy their own craft. They can't say, look at this treasure that I've made. They just say, okay, next.
I'm feeling kind of good today.
In
Maybe I
previous
should turn a new
editions,
leaf.
Duergar rode giant spiders too. Do you think they're trying to send a message to the drow?
Maybe.
I'll ride you from one end of the Underdark and back again.
Yeah.
What's up?
Is this a holy beast to you? No, it's mine now.
Yeah.
I treat it like
Here's my junk right on its back.
I mean, but I think drow used to also ride
Lizards.
No, they ride lizards.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lizards,
okay.
because they're looking at Lizardman going, what?
Yeah.
This is your great granddaddy.
It's a whole ecology of each other, denigrating one another.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
it's just everybody is addicted to one another, and then you have deep gnomes that are just how do I deal with all these terrible things around me?
But that aside, Duergar for me is a fun race or monster.
They just look cool.
Thematically they're cool. They look cool, and the idea of them sending slaves or slavers up to the surface world, whether it's a town, a city, whatever, kidnapping people. Like there's a great story arc in there from beginning to end. You know, eventually, you know, it could even be that they capture someone really important that your players have to try and get back. You know, they have to figure out who took them, you know, and how, and then they have to figure out where they are, and then they have to infiltrate a Duergar city in the Underdark. You know, the Underdark itself is like the deadliest place you can possibly go, right? And then on top of that, you have a place fortified against that deadliest place in the world,
Right.
And you know, they're constantly probably at war with drow, kuto, and freaking
Deep gnomes, yeah. Maybe subterranean lizard men, why not? Throw them into the mix.
Let's not forget hookars, illithids, beholders.
So these guys in their own right are not candy asses, and if you got to go into their city and try and take someone back,
Deep dragons.
it's not going to be easy.
I think that would be pretty intense for a low-level campaign.
Yeah.
Well, no,
But-
he's saying
yeah,
as an arc.
progressive.
What I would say is, you know, as an arc, you could also say maybe they, rather than going all the way to the city for the person, maybe they get a small like encampment of them, like a hub for moving
Well,
slaves
yeah, you
around.
would start off,
and
you
then
know,
maybe something bigger happens where.
you know, you don't start with the city, no.
I know.
You know, there's outposts and strongholds.
Yeah.
And there's just the fact that you're gathering. You know, first it's more like an investigation. You're trying to figure out.
Maybe they captured an important hostage, like somebody in the royal family, and they're like, you have to get this guy back. And maybe they're holding him hostage for like mining rights or something like that. You know, so there's a little bit of a little intrigue going on.
Or, you know, what about you know, while you're investigating, it takes you to like a neutral Underdark city where there's, you know, Duergar, drow, deep gnomes, you know, more surface races, and other races where they all come together. You know, maybe something powerful rules that city and it keeps the peace.
Or it's like a mercantile run city, because like you're deeper and deeper to like, you know, nicer veins of whatever material.
Yeah, so money ruling it.
Yeah. Basically merchant lords. or
Yeah, but
whatever.
from start to finish, that would be really epic to end in busted into a Duergar city and getting somebody out.
Yeah. And like the whole challenge of getting that person out alive, because just beating the monsters is one way to go, but to like actually have to like have somebody not die is so much more hard than just having the combat encounter.
Well, and then, you know, you're taking Duergar, the standard one from the book, and then you're adding class levels to them.
Because you know they won't give us any powerful NPCs because they're not drow to fight against them.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
No Duergar clerics.
No, there's no Duergar
No.
anything. You get the baseline. It's
They,
good.
in the flavor, they do mention the Infernal Master, like I think it was
Well, Asmodeus.
Lord of the Nine Hells.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he likes,
impersonates
he
Duergar
likes to
gods.
mess with them.
Yeah, he impersonates their gods and demigods, kind of like rile them up a bit.
It's
So-
kind of weird though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like they have their own like Duergar god that like freed them from the mindflayers, right?
and then he's like, "You need to punish the infidel."
And then all of a
That's
sudden,
the other-
Asmodeus is like, these guys are kind of cool to mess with.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder why they're so pissed off and grumpy all the time.
But here's the thing: was
They
that
got their own personal Loki, basically,
Well-
messing everything up.
I mean, but here's the thing: did that god ever exist? What if it was always Asmodeus from the beginning,
That-
just taking on another
yeah.
visage because he's a
That could
fucking
be.
god? So he's just like, you know, appearing to them as something else instead of that thing ever actually having existed, just taking another form.
Yeah, I don't know where Asmodeus falls in the hierarchy.
The pecking order of the Nine Hells.
Yeah, well, no, in the Nine Hells, I know exactly where he falls. But,
And where does he
You
fall?
mean like cosmically, like on
Yeah,
that
in the
scale?
divinity, yeah. You know he's the ruler of the Nine Hells. He's
Yeah.
a badass.
Yeah.
But from, you know, different editions of D&D, and, you know, they took Asmodeus right out of myth and lore. But, you know, he's just been, you know, a greater devil.
Yeah.
You know, he's been, you know, a lesser god or a greater god. Like he falls over.
He's
falls
swung on
different
the
And then
by
sometimes-
addition. He's swung, yeah.
and then sometimes he's actually outside of it. You know, there's been some really I forget which edition, but they had some really weird cosmology with him, where he was entwined with somebody else, their fates, and something like in some ways he was like more powerful than a god because he couldn't be gotten rid of. You know, almost like he was a concept and an ideal at the same time as being a being. So, but with that in mind, you know, you could do where he messes with the Duergar, or you could just have the Duergar who pay homage to him and follow
The ones that know
his
the truth, but like then they're seen as
Like
The crazy
heretics.
ones.
Yeah, heretics basically. You know, like where people want to kill them for being. Because I mean, it's like ancient Jerusalem where you had like well, I mean, the Life of Brian makes fun of this, like the People's Front of Judea, the Judeans People's Front, like everybody arguing about how they interpret things.
Right.
So you have like, and I mean, a culture that's like so.
and what to do about the Romans.
Yeah. I mean, but a culture that's so like angry and hostile would probably have so many like, no, your way of following this is wrong. My way is the true way. And like, I could imagine them having all kinds of schisms. This doesn't go into it, but I mean, to have them be as powerful as they are innately and not be like coming up to the surface and ruling shit, there's got to be something. So I think there would probably be a little bit of faction.
I would say there's the possibility of factions, but as dwarves, I mean, they're still going to be.
They are lawful.
They're lawful, so they're going to be loyal to clan.
Well, there could be political intrigue. Maybe not out and out. Like drow are probably more apt to fight in the streets and stuff like that. Dwarves probably it's more like backroom deals. Yeah, exactly.
But that could be also that could come into play in your campaign, right?
Right.
Maybe
Somebody will smuggle you in because he's trying to undercut somebody else kind of deal. They're like, oh, this guy bumbled things. I should be elected head of the council or the clan.
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways you could go with it, and then a Duergar possibly as a player character could be also interesting.
Especially if he's psionic and can manifest a scorpion's tail. And,
Yeah, but I was thinking slightly less evil.
yeah.
A Duergar that actually forsakes his heritage, fights with two scimitars, and
It has
wait a minute.
Well, where would someone go to get information on how to play a Duergar as a PC?
I heard a rumor of a website called nerdarchy.com.
Really?
Where this guy, usually he's kind of a tool, but this time he did a really good job in this article. No, Nerdarchy's Ted wrote a great article.
On what website?
Nerdarchy.com.
Every time he says it, we get a nickel. A nickel goes directly into our bank account. What website was that? Oh, that was nerdarchy.com.
I don't think it works if we say it. I think someone else has to say it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, right.
But if they say it 3 times with feeling and the proper implements,
We don't exist anymore?
they'll summon a Nerdarchist.
Yeah.
They need a proper summon.
Yeah, so Nerdarchus Ted did a good article on that, a great article on Duergar, and he's also done some other race features. So
Yeah, maybe actually this might be a good one to segue into for somebody that does a lot of psionics on the website as well.
who's that guy?
I don't know.
He sounds really cool.
That guy sounds amazing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
This guy that writes on nerdarchy.com.
Yeah, I did psionics I'm up to 6 parts right now, and I've almost completed all the disciplines for converting to the 5th. And Duergar, I mean, they say the strange magic of the underdark.
The strange magic.
is why the Duergar have these powers, but whatever, they're psionic.
Yeah, I mean, but you could do it either way. Either like there's like a weird sort of like ethereal like thing in the area, or you could do the psionic. It's somebody's world, their camping world.
It's really it's the psychic radiation from the Illithid ships that are deep underground.
Right. Well, in our world, yeah, exactly.
I think it's actually from being alien probe too long,
too hard, too deep. It was basically Duergar hentai. Yeah,
it's the will range. Yeah. No, not again.
What was it they say? You only use so much percentage of your brain. So I guess being probed by the Illithids for so long,
awakening part of it.
I don't want to get into the mechanics of that. So going forward.
But and again, that would be if you did psychic, psionic or psychic races. Duergar would be a great one to fill in there.
That's true. I could even do a thing on adapting certain races that are obviously psionic races
to be
that say like magical. I mean, Illithids, they've got sonic blast basically, but it's magic attack.
Yeah.
So
until we get a psionics book.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll come. There's enough things that are psionic in the core monster manual that like I think the psionics isn't too far off.
But we don't wait. Nerdarchy, we don't really wait.
We don't want to wait
for that stuff. So we're like, hey, we want a Duergar playable race. Sure, do it.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Do it.
Yeah, we actually had a viewer request that we do Duergar. It was Ashton Smith.
All right.
He's running an Underdark campaign, and there's stuff going on between drow and Duergar, and he's like, look, I'd like to see your guys' take on the Duergar as a race. So can you do it?
Great.
So I did.
We made it so. I mean, we had another request for somebody to actually have us like run modules, which it's playing through a whole thing, and that would have taken a lot longer. But like if it's like statting up a monster, like that's something that can be done in like an afternoon.
Right.
You know, whereas like playing through a module, that's like 20 hours, if not more than probably. So
We all have to hibernate from our jobs for a week.
right, so I can't come in. I'm playing role playing games. This
Yeah.
is totally a viable excuse.
Yeah.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
I'm sick.
So, duergars. Well, I don't know. You guys want to add anything? Any interesting plot twists or ideas on how you would use a duergar in your campaign?
You could totally, you could have it as, the complete antithesis to what you're seeing in here. You've got a Duergar that has, come to the surface as, essentially a good guy or a rebel, and maybe you're trying to, either get him to get away from the Underdark and protecting him against any Underdark incursions, or maybe he's the only the one of several, and you've got to go in and rescue his friends or allies, if you will.
I think that'd be a tough sell.
Yeah.
To the play, I mean, as a player character, I'd be like, so
But I mean,
Duergar, you're a slaver race, and you want me to go into this dark cave to help your friends out.
Well, I mean, it could be something that could be very role playing and
Oh, yeah, I mean,
and skill
definitely.
intensive. So I mean, if you want to run a campaign that's not just fight, it could be something that you got to role play with this guy. He's got to convince the players. You then have to do a lot of sneaky and navigating your way through the Underdark, getting in and out of the city with these guys. I mean, it could be something tricky.
Well, maybe a Duergar that
wife
wants.
and child or something.
I think it needs to have a little more depth than just that. Like, say he wants to bring back the old ways of glory of the dwarves. So, like, then he's getting into actually having passion and caring about his artistry. Maybe a Duergar bard to be, like, so against type. And, like, he really, College of Valor wants to bring back the old honor of what dwarves used to be and create his own colony or something.
That's a good idea.
And like you said, how there would be kind of like a splinter group of these people that understand the Lord Asmodeus is really like impersonating one of the demigods or gods. You could also have a group of them that are saying, hey, we don't want to be
We're being
manipulated by the devil.
Right.
So it's kind of like they're trying to leave their homeland because they just see it as lost in that sense until they can come back into their own power and try and enact change. But
Well, I kind of like the idea of the good Duergar leaving the city and the clan and needing protection because, I see them as being kind of like really honor bound, even though they're kind of evil and twisted as fuck. But it's probably a great shame and dishonor on the clan that this one is from, and they're gonna want him back, and they're gonna want him to pay for shaming them.
Oh, basically, hey, you guys aren't good enough. I have to leave you.
It basically is almost the same thing with Drizzt with the drow. Only the motivation would be different for them. Like it was like a holy thing, but with the dwarves, I think it's more of a honor of the clan, and in order to save face, we have to fix this.
I would also say for like sort of role playing and like building the culture of the Duergar, I could see modeling them a little bit off of like Klingons from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like just because they're honor and fierce and kind of vicious.
Dwarf on the run.
Yeah.
Dwarf on the run.
Stuck in little legs, won't let me go any faster.
They're natural sprinters, really.
Yeah. Dangerous at short distance.
They run everywhere.
Well, until they enlarge. Does their speed go up when they go large?
I
don't know, but they double damage.
Yeah. They should get a little more speed just because like
Yeah, I think
30 feet.
I think if that makes sense to get a little boost.
Yeah. If not, I will put my foot through the chest.
Any other, takes or whatnot on the Duergar?
I think we done did the Duergar.
We delved their depths, if you will.
I don't want to delve into Duergars now.
They've suffered enough.
Yeah,
the tentacles of the ill.
You don't want to go anywhere that Nilithid's
Well,
been.
one more little thing. Did we talk about the resistance that they get? Basically spell resistance.
Well,
and like
mechanically,
that.
we haven't really talked about
Oh.
that.
We've talked around them. Yeah.
Well, mechanically, they're awesome.
They're like
awesome.
dwarves, but awesomer.
Yeah, they're better than dwarves. So dwarves are already sort of super cool. So you kind of can get the idea.
They love
I'm kind of surprised they're only a CR1, to be honest with you.
All of the Underdark races tend to have, more oomph, more
for
power.
all their invisibility and enlarged powers, they only get a warpig or javelin attack. It's not like they're uber fighters. And,
Except for when they go enlarge and they double the damage.
all right, well there you go.
There's that. So
There's that. So it's a bit of a hit.
And well, here's the thing too. Like,
do they get? They probably get.
What's the CR for orc? I mean, orcs are pretty.
half.
Okay.
But
all right.
and then when they go large, like, don't they get reach too? Because they're large.
I don't think so.
Maybe. I mean, that could.
It doesn't say.
I
But
think
I
large
would-
probably should extend your reach out to 10 feet. Like, so dealing significantly more amount of damage and then having reach and then being able to start the encounter invisible. Like, they're a pretty nasty customer.
I mean,
Well,
it doubles their carrying capacity.
The only thing that makes me a little sad by
It increases it. Oh no, it does double.
the spell features in this edition is you can't do what I did with my Grey Dwarf eons ago. You can't disappear, enlarge, sneak up, and then attack. You can only have your invisibility or your enlarge up at a time. If you do
Yeah,
one,
one
it
or
shuts
the
down
other.
the other.
Oh really?
Yeah, because they're both concentration.
Yeah, your invisibility is like to
I'm
sneak
fixing
up.
that in Sax too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, the feel of this edition is you can't stack a lot of things. Like
Well,
the wizard
actually-
takes a hit because he can't stack a lot of things.
Actually, that's not what it says under enlarge for the Duergar. It doesn't say that it's a concentration. It doesn't say you're casting a spell either.
Oh, they just do it, huh?
For 1 minute, the Duergar magically increases size,
Or sign.
along with anything it's wearing or carrying. While enlarged, the Duergar is large, doubles damage. So
They could.
yeah. Now, if it was a player, I would probably make it a concentration thing just to stay in
when
balance.
I didn't read it carefully. I actually put in you can cast this spell once a day.
If we, I don't know if you scaled their abilities, or did you just say they can cast a spell once per day?
I gave them that.
Now,
that
invisibility is very specific for the Duergar. The Duergar magically turns invisible until it attacks, casts a spell, or uses its enlarge, or until its concentration is broken up to 1 hour, as if concentrating on a spell. Any equipment the Duergar wears or carries.
Okay,
is
so
invisible.
it still has the ability to
Sneak up on you and go,
While large. Well, no. I mean, really, what it says is until it enlarges, right? So you could enlarge then invisibility. And there you go. You got everything going at once.
Yeah.
So you're a large creature.
As the PC race, I would say,
As
you're
a
actually
P-
casting the spells.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
As the
actually what I-
DM, there's a gray area.
yeah. So,
A gray dwarf area.
Yeah.
One might
A
even
very
say.
large grade.
but yeah, I put it in as per the spell. I think it gave them to it like second and fourth, or third and fifth, or something.
Okay, so you scale them
Yeah.
like the darkness and the other
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely,
for-
absolutely.
And-
Those are
yeah.
both second level spells, I think. So.
I think it's appropriate fall in the tiefling model with that.
Absolutely. Anytime creatures have spell-like abilities, I always try and scale it unless it's like just a cantrip.
That sounds like a great conversation for our creating PC monster races workshop.
Right. So, we should probably mention the fact that we actually fought the Duergar versus the drow in
Yeah, we
a
did
monster
do it.
versus monster video.
Yes, we
we
did
could
do
probably
that.
like that. Or...
Yeah. But that's just to say that like the drow like having actual like class levels and stuff like that accounts for a lot.
And when we did it, we didn't have access to the DMG to get the hacks.
Yeah, but and also too, one of the things we should mention is like how powerful their magic resistance is. Like Duergar, most of the times were making their saving throws against like that 10th
Yeah.
level wizard that was casting against them. Like
Exactly.
I kept resorting to just straight up damage spells because I knew that
Or at least
they're
they
gonna make
have.
they're gonna make saves. They're gonna make their saves all the time.
Yeah,
so like
trying to
that.
hold them. No.
That being magically resistant, man, like there's so few things you have to do except for just straight up damage to the Duergar.
Yeah,
So it's
pretty
powerful.
much if
Powerful.
you're fighting dwarves, you just need to put the beat down.
I mean, traditionally a Duergar would be, in previous editions, they're if you had a cast, they would either be Scion, the Sinister, or if it was a caster, it'd be more like a Divine caster. So, adding that to, adding those levels to a Duergar really makes them kind of intense.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun for the DM to run the encounters. And then, when you're talking about Duergar cavalry on spiders, they're dropping from the ceiling like you know, they're like rappelling down
Setting
like
web
squats.
traps
You know.
or sticky webs that are going to funnel the players into one direction.
And also too, the Duergar caster knows that most of his shock troops are going to make their, are going to save versus his thing. So there's no problem dropping a web spell in the midst because he knows enemy forces are going to be way more impeded by this thing than we are.
That's right.
So just drop that web right in the middle of my own guys because I don't care. They're just going to magically ignore it.
And the really important thing too is about the Duergars, the fact that they're smart and tactical in comparison to a lot of the monster races you know as a DM you would throw at your players. I mean, you know, while orcs aren't stupid, they're also not geniuses.
Right.
You know, same thing with goblins or kobolds. Again, they tend to be more cunning than smart. You know, but these guys kind of have like the total package. I mean,
And there's no, there's not really a perception check when they're just invisible. So it's like, oh, do you see them?
no,
You
no,
don't.
you don't. Although it is a lot easier to attack invisible creatures in this edition.
Yeah, they streamlined the mechanics.
It's like, I just have disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't actually have to pick the right area.
I'm still sore about that. You can't hear me and you can't see me, but you're going to make a long range attack, and it's only going to be at disadvantage instead of worse than that.
Right. And it
So
would
there's a little bit of
disadvantage
lag.
anyway.
Well, I'm sure the DMG gives you some optional rules. Like maybe from long range, it would be like disadvantage and like a -5 or -2 or whatever.
It would be if it was cover, but
Yeah.
concealment is different. Concealment works, I think, off of the disadvantage rules.
Yeah.
So
And I
I
really
mean-
like the advantage rules, but
Well, I
you
mean,
just don't take into account
Oh, yeah.
certain situations.
You can't have double disadvantage.
yeah.
What you could do is have to randomly roll for where you think somebody might be, rather than just look up at the mini and say, hey, he's right there. I'm going to shoot at him, even though it's long range and he's invisible.
But also, they're going to pile on the armor, so they have disadvantage on stealth, so it's like a wash. Like, you're probably going to hear the clanking of the armor and have a pretty good idea of where they are, and especially if they're stealthing at you while they're large, you have a good chance of hitting them. Yeah, because they take up a lot of space. So, like, it's like, yeah, I don't see anything, but I hear the scramble of, like, pebbles and, like,
Yeah, but what
clicking
about
plates.
those Duergar tunnel runners that are like ninjas?
Well, there are those. Well, you could just not give, basically just like, more than likely they're going to get the drop on the party. Dice it out, figure it,
I really like the idea of them rappelling down from the ceiling on giant spiders. That's
Yes.
really cool.
I'm enjoying the visual on that one.
It'd be pretty freaking creepy too.
Indeed.
And at 120 feet, they see you, but you can't see them unless you happen to have a drow in your party.
You know, we talked about them being slavers, but we never talked about them actually using their slaves.
Shock troops.
Yeah, they could be shock troops. I mean, I was thinking that I think we had talked about terrible terrains on our cast for it about enslaved cars like on chains or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. So.
Or just driving orcs and goblins.
Yeah, orcs and
kobolds
goblins, shock
in
troops,
front of them.
cattle.
Cattle prodding.
Well, that's kind of how I would envision, like in a campaign at the lower levels, is what you encounter first. They're slaves, they're minions, and if you're going off the psionic aspect of the Duergar, or even if you want to call it magic, whatever you want to call it.
The mental thralls.
Yeah, I see them. I see a lot of their slaves being more mentally enslaved than more traditional, especially the ones they keep at home. Maybe the ones that they sell at the market in the Underdark, they're just more traditional slaves, chains and whatnot. But some of their house slaves or whatever, or clan slaves, they've probably been mentally conditioned.
Or you just have a superior specimen that you make into a taskmaster by doing silent surgery to it, basically, that keeps others in line. So you have a 1:5 or 1:10 ratio of this taskmaster.
Like an overseer.
Yeah, the overseer that's just he's leading the mission to go have them do a raid or
It's got
something.
a combination of psychic surgery and essentially better treatment. If you return, from the mission successful, you'll get extra food, or you'll get better lodging, or something. So it's not
Choice
just
of mates or whatever.
Yeah.
Carrots and sticks.
Yeah. Well, or what if the Duergar? What if in your world the Duergar were known for their slaving and their slavery, and they actually do create superior slaves because of all this mental conditioning. So their slaves actually
Are willing.
Higher quality.
they bring in a higher rate at the slave markets. That could be a whole campaign itself, slavers versus slavers, where you got either human or a tiefling or some other organization of slavers are like these goddamn Duergar
Always,
every
yeah.
freaking time
Can't
with
beat-
their
can't
mind
compete.
voodoo magic, so it's another angle to look at. Like I'm really wanting to flesh out like this neutral ground city.
My brain has been working in the background. I've got a whole thing on that one. Maybe we'll do a video on just that.
Yeah, dude, I've got some other campaign ideas I've been meaning to go over with you guys, but
We're
that's a
on
different
fire.
thing.
Yeah, ready to go.
All right. So, but do we want to close a wrap here on these dual?
I think so.
Yeah, let's make them shrink down and disappear
To the
I
regular
say,
size.
put any comments below. Click like, share, subscribe.
Find us on nerdarchy.com.
On the T-shirt there, or you can hang out with us on Twitter.
Or you can also check out the conversation on Reddit.
There you go. Well,
With
until
that,
next time,
stay
stay
nerdy.
nerdy and dwarfy.